If you clicked on this video by accident, all I ask is that you try and refrain from being embarrassed. We don't want any duplication incidents. Hi, I'm Phil. Welcome to my channel where I like to talk about all the geeky pop culture that I like and consume. Things like the MCU, things like Red Dwarf, and things like Star Trek. And we are weekly reviewing Star Trek Lower Decks here on the channel. I don't know the episode name of this latest episode because it wasn't on the service that I got it from. There was no episode name, it just said episode 5. So I'm guessing it's something to do with either a party or the Dooplers. But it's the 5th episode, and we get our more traditional pairings in this episode of Mariner and Boimler teaming up, and Tendi and Rutherford teaming up, and a bit of the bridge crew stuff going on as well. After a few episodes of mixing up the dynamics a bit, I don't mind them going back to this tried and tested dynamic of having these particular pairings. And I think actually it worked really well for sort of dealing with some of the unresolved issues between Boimler and Mariner and her feelings. Although, kind of, they dealt with that a few episodes ago, but this is the first time that they really got in a room together where they could really sort of hash it out and resolve their differences over it. So that was nice that they got to do that. It kind of felt like that there was, there's continuity in this show. It's not just like everything's being reset every week. Although the general status quo has gone very much back to the season 1, which is a shame, but I would have preferred more development, but at least we're getting those few threads that carry over. I liked this episode. I think I was more engaged in this episode than I was last week's episode. The plot lines, I liked all 3 of the plot lines, kept me a lot more engaged than last week, where there was only really one of the plot lines which I was massively into. All 3 of them had their great comedic moments in this. Either great comedic moments or great sort of character development moments, which I quite liked as well, particularly with the Rutherford and Tendi stuff. There was some nice stuff between the 2 of them there, and how Rutherford is dealing with his coming back from the dead as well, in a way. I mean, he didn't die, but he's lost his memory of a lot of stuff, and he basically started from scratch, and there's a lot of dealing with that in his storyline, which was quite nice. You get some brilliant... a lot of the comedy comes from the Dooplers, which is the bridge crew storyline. And then you've got the nice dealing with the feelings of abandonment that both Boimler and Mariner have against each other. So that was quite nice too. From here on out, I will be getting into spoilers, so if you haven't seen the episode, go away, watch it, and come back later. I really like the concept of the Dooplers, aliens that duplicate themselves as a defense mechanism. When they feel embarrassed or under threat or something, social awkwardness makes them duplicate. Seemingly quicker than tribbles. We're introduced to the concept when one of them is around the dinner table with the bridge crew, and this very on edge dinner table. They are desperately trying not to upset or make the guest feel awkward at any point. And at one point, when the Doopler drops his fork, Ransom chucks his fork on the floor in order to make light of the situation and make him not feel too bad. Like, oh yeah, we always do that. It's fine. And it's quite a tense scene. But the comedy from the Doopler stuff really starts going when it goes wrong. Because the captain accidentally says something about them when she doesn't realise they're in the room. Makes them feel awkward, like they're not wanted, like they're a hassle, and then they start duplicating. And before you know it, they are everywhere on the ship. Like I said, they duplicate quicker than tribbles. So seeing the various crew members deal with that, and how some of them accidentally insult them more or make them feel awkward more. It's not so much insulting, we'll come back to insulting, but it just makes them feel awkward, like they're not wanted or embarrassed or anything like that. That's what makes them duplicate. And we get them spreading throughout the ship, which then ties into Rutherford and Tendi's plot, which starts with them building a little model of the ship. And I like that it's basically a fully functioning model of the ship. This has phasers in which they accidentally fire and hit someone. It has a warp drive. I don't know if it's a functioning warp drive or if it's just a power cell of some kind, but it seems quite explosive. And but they can't quite finish it. And Rutherford's getting more and more frustrated with this because he assumes that his previous self, before he had his memory loss, had been able to finish it, would have been able to finish it, but he can't do it, and he puts this down to the fact that he's lost a part of himself, and he has some sort of inferiority complex because of that, and we see that play out throughout the whole situation, including when they start trying to get out of the way of these duplicating Dooplers, because he's insistent on keeping the ship with him, and there's several points where he almost puts himself at risk to make sure he takes the miniature ship with him, because to him that embodies defeating the fact that he isn't less intelligent than, if he can just finish this, he isn't less intelligent than he used to be. He is still the same true Rutherford, but he has this inferiority complex against himself almost. And he says at one point that other Rutherford would have been able to work a way out of this situation as well. And he has this, while Tendi is trying to be the supportive friend, she's trying to say, no, this is, and she points out at the end, what gives him back his sort of oomph is the fact that she points out that they never did finish the ship. They never finished the ship. They always got to a certain point and started again, because they were left alone when they were doing that. Nobody bothered them when people in the bar saw them fiddling with this toy. They were just left to socialize and be by themselves, the two of them, which is quite nice. Talking of just the two of them, I did wonder for a moment if this might be the moment where their relationship goes up to maybe something less platonic, because I'm still shipping these two. I think there's chemistry there, and I think if out of any potential pairings on the ship, like I've said before, I really don't want to see Mariner and Boimler get together, and they have a moment in this where somebody mistakes Boimler for her boyfriend and he goes, oh no, but I would like to see these two together. I just think they would work really well. They have great chemistry. I think that would work really well. And there was a nice line in it, I thought, where I thought they might be leading up to something. Because when he's talking about how he's frustrated and he thinks he's less smart than he used to be, that he doesn't have these memories, that he says he's a year behind on their friendship. And they do, at that point when they think they're going to get, overrun by the Dooplers, they sort of embrace at that point as well. And I did wonder if they were going to go down a route of her maybe kissing him at that point, or there being a bit more of a romantic embrace, and her saying something along, it would be cheesy admittedly, but something along the lines of, you never got this far before, or something like that, or our relationship never got this far before. And I just wondered if that was where they were possibly going with it, and then they didn't, which was, I'm fine with them taking a bit longer with this, if that's where they are going in the end. I still think they probably are, maybe are, I hope they are. So I'm fine that they didn't do it, but that would have been one opportunity to. I think that would have been a natural opportunity, given the storyline they were in, to progress that relationship if the writers had wanted to at that point. But what they do manage to work out from this realization that they never did finish the ship, and Rutherford comes to that realization that he isn't less intelligent than he used to be. He never finished it for a reason. But he also then, that kind of prompts him to come to the realization that they can use the ship to get out of there, because they can eject the miniature warp core and throw it at the hatch that's stopping them getting out. And I love the little mini voice on that, because this is literally a whole working miniature ship, and it's even got a miniature computer that has a really high-pitched voice because it's miniature, doing the countdown to the warp core ejection. Loved that. So they kind of get out, and so this was a really nice storyline for dealing with Rutherford's personal issues around his memory loss and things, and how he feels he measures up to how he used to be. I thought that was really nice. The Doopler plot is eventually resolved by the captain screaming at them just because she's so frustrated. What does she say? She says, "Stop being such whiny little shits." And then two of them merge back together. And she realizes that it's actually getting them angry makes them reform and reconstitute. So she instructs the whole ship to start insulting them. And the best one of those is probably after the captains, which was quite good, the little outburst there. We then get the cat, the doctor who is a cat creature, who is just streaming expletives, and all we hear, of course, is beeps, but it's at them. That was funny. So they all come back together and are one again, and he demands that he's going to leave the ship after being treated this way, and off he goes. And that's the resolve of that plot. Now, while all of this has been going on, we get the Mariner and Boimler plot. And what this is that they want to get into the Starfleet party, because that's why the Cerritos is at this planet. They are there to attend, or for the captain to attend, the Starfleet, some kind of Starfleet ball thing for the higher-ups. And usually California-class vessels don't get invited to this. They're not high status enough. But because of the Pac-led battle last series, where the California helped out the Titan against the Pac-leds, they have seemingly gotten an invite. But Mariner and Boimler, well, particularly Mariner, plots a plan to also attend the party, because usually it's just the higher-ups, bridge crew, captains and second-in-commands that go to this. The command of the ship. So they're not going to... And they've got duties to do on the ship and whatever. But she plots a thing that actually they probably could get on the ship, into the party even, if Boimler poses as his transporter clone. I love the fact that they're keeping the transporter clone stuff going. I'm sure we're going to get an episode where we're going to get both of them in an episode at some point as well. So that will be good. But I do like the fact that there were some nice bits in this. We'll get to them dealing with their issues in a minute. But also, it does show Boimler's growth, I think, because he actually gets excited about illicitly transporting down. Now, the Boimler from the beginning of season 1, would not have been excited about that at all, because he would have been like, oh no, we can't break this regulation, we can't do this sneaky thing, we've got to stick it by the book. But no, here, he's literally, generally on his face, you can see the excitement of them going and doing this. So he's grown, I think, as a person, willing to break a few rules. The problem is that when they get down there, they have several problems. First of all, they don't know where the party is. Second of all, somebody's tracking Mariner and has noticed that she's back on the planet and is radioing through to somebody, which turns out to be an old acquaintance with a grudge because she left him on SETI Alpha 4, which is apparently worse than SETI Alpha 5. And he frames them for a job by sending them to deliver some seemingly just bubble bath bottles of data with a few laws in there as well. But actually, underneath those was illicit weaponry, and the security services chase them. There is a quite exciting car chase. I quite liked that. And they end up in a swamp, all dripping wet, after escaping the security. And then they get to the party, dripping wet, and then only Boimler's on the list, so Mariner doesn't get in, because they check and Mariner is assigned to the Cerritos, whereas William Boimler is assigned to the Titan, who Boimler is posing as. So he gets in and she doesn't, and they have this little bust up, and this is where it comes in that they both feel like the other one abandons them. Like, Mariner has this hang up of Boimler having gone off to the Titan and accepted the promotion, didn't even really say goodbye, just kind of left and abandoned her. Boimler makes a point of several previous adventures where Mariner has just left him on a planet somewhere. So they both have these kind of feelings of abandonment towards the other one. I think they're stronger with Mariner. And so Boimler they have this little argument, and Boimler goes into the party. And Mariner goes off to a sort of dive bar somewhere. But once Boimler's in there, he just doesn't feel right without Mariner by his side to take the mick out of all of the higher-ups. and he just kind of feels a bit lonely and isn't having fun. So he goes and joins her in the bar. I love the nice touch about the fact that actually Kirk and Spock once ended up at this bar and carved their names into it because they didn't get into the party. Quite why Kirk and Spock didn't get into the party, I don't know. Maybe they did get into the party and Kirk did something to get thrown out. That might track a bit more than just not being a let-in the first place. Because, captain of a Constitution-class ship would have been let in the party, surely. And they seem to resolve their differences here and their hang-ups about abandonment here. And have a little tussle about who's number one, which is quite nice. Their friendship seems to be repaired. And then the episode ends with the captain also not getting into the party. The captain of the Cerritos doesn't get in, and her bridge crew don't get into the party. They're not on the list. I don't know why they're not on the list. They got an invite, surely, I think. Or did they just assume they would be allowed to go in? I don't know. But they turn up and they're not allowed to go in. So they end up at the same dive bar as Mariner and Boimler. And then other crew members beam down and they just have their own little party at the bar and it's all very nice. And just to spite the rest of the snotty other Starfleet people that didn't want them at the other party, when the Doopler comes along, and what does he say? He says something along the lines of, "Oh, do you know anywhere I can go to get a nice drink?" And she says, "I do." And she teleports him into the Starfleet party where somebody goes, "Hey, you're not meant to be here," which of course embarrasses the Doopler and he starts duplicating and ruins the Starfleet party, much to the Cerritos' crew's delight. I thought that was a good ending and good to see the snooty people that were at that party get their comeuppance. This was a good episode. I don't think it would rank like massively. There wasn't anything about it that I was like, wow, this is amazing, but I do think it was stronger than last week. I was invested in one way or another from all three storylines and engaged with them a lot more than I was last week. So yeah, it was good, and to get that character progression was good as well. Though once again, it does seem to be resetting the status quo, which I'm less happy about. But I can live with for the moment, I think. We're only in season 2. What did you think of the episode? Let me know in the comments below. And I will be back next week for another Star Trek review. I'll see you then. Goodbye.